Jake Paul got problems right here, you know. So, I mean, he's doing good for what he's doing, you know. Like I said, for what he's doing. It is what it is. It's just a lot of talk.
Floyd Mayweather, the undefeated legend of the boxing world, has just dropped a bombshell prediction about the upcoming Mike Tyson vs. Jake Paul fight. And let me tell you, this isn't just some off-the-cuff guess. Mayweather didn't randomly pick a name out of a hat. This is a man who spent over 20 years in the ring, breaking jaws and dodging punches with the best of them.
I mean, you know, when I'm betting on real fighters.
Real fights, yeah.
Not saying that they're not real fighters. They're novice. They're novice professional fighters. But when I'm betting on fights, I'm betting on fights that's.
So when Floyd speaks, you can bet he's not just talking, he's sharing the hard-earned wisdom of a true master of the craft. Floyd's analysis doesn't just stop at gut feelings, it's backed up with cold, hard facts. And let's be honest, Floyd isn't the type to sugarcoat anything, so trust me, things aren't looking too bright for Jake Paul. But hey, don't just take my word for it. Floyd's prediction comes with all the receipts you could ask for. Now, you might be wondering, how can Floyd be so confident about this? Well, hold on to your seat, because the leaked footage is about to blow your mind.
It's different when you're at the highest level. And Roy Jones can contest to that. Clarissa and so many other fighters. You know, once you get in there with a real fighter that can really fight.
Imagine this Mike Tyson, the same guy who once terrorized the ring with savage power, is now training with a level of calm, calculated precision under none other than Mayweather's expert guidance. It's almost too insane to believe. This isn't the same Iron Mike you remember, throwing wild haymakers like he's starring in a 90s highlight reel. No, this version of Tyson is a whole new animal, a beast who's clearly taking notes from the defensive genius himself, Floyd Mayweather. Floyd wasn't just standing on the sidelines, he was in there, teaching Tyson the art of controlled destruction. We're talking about Mike Tyson pacing himself, calculating each move, and moving with the purpose.
It's gonna be over. Right. So he got to be able to enjoy it while he can. Is he doing good? Absolutely. For who he's fighting, guys 50, guys 40. Of course. Do he want to fight me? Of course. I'm almost 50 years old, so of course he want to fight me.
Purpose so precise, it would make a chess grandmaster green with envy. But Tyson wasn't swinging blindly anymore. He was picking his shots with a kind of surgical precision that's downright terrifying. And the way he's moving around that ring, it's not just about power anymore. It's about survival, about lasting through the later rounds with the kind of strategy that turns a fighter into a master tactician. Here's the kicker word on the street, is that when Jake Paul got a glimpse of that footage, his confidence cracked like an overripe avocado. Sources say the guy looked more rattled than a leaf caught in a hurricane.
Well, I commend Tyson because he's one of the guys that paved the way for me to be where I'm at. You know, he's a legendary champion. And the only thing I have to say about Mike Tyson is everyone is always trying to judge Mike Tyson.
I mean, Jake's used to trash talking his way into fights, banking on the idea that Tyson was just some washed-up relic from the past. But this wasn't the old, nostalgic Mike Tyson. This was a new, Mayweather-enhanced version, a disciplined, defense-first Tyson who's ready for anything. Let's be honest, Jake Paul isn't exactly the second coming of Muhammad Ali. So seeing Tyson evolve into this calculated, methodical fighter must have been...
You know, he was terrifying as a boxer.
Yeah.
Terrifying, you know. Even when I met him at one point backstage at the stadium at a fight, and I was like, I'm still terrified of you from watching you, you know. But then that guy he started becoming, where he became more explorative and he was looking into what, you know, the meaning of life and, you know, having a smoke every now and then and stuff like that, you know. I was like, I'm enjoying this, Mike.
Yeah.
You know, I'm liking the evolution.
And a brutal, soul-crushing reality check for him. And then Mayweather drops his jaw-dropping prediction. The man straight up said that if Tyson can pace himself and fully embrace these new defensive techniques, Jake Paul is done. Toast. Finished. Now, Floyd doesn't throw out bold claims like that just for the sake of talking. He's one of the sharpest boxing minds out there. But here's the real question, can Jake Paul's youth and cardio save him? Or is he about to become the latest victim of Tyson's newly found, terrifyingly calculated violence? If you thought Tyson's training was intense and technical, buckle up because it's about to get even wilder. The man isn't just grinding through traditional workouts, he's diving into some of the most bizarre.
He looks the best shape and the strongest he's ever been is what his coaches are saying. And so I know on November 15th it's going to be a war, but I just plan on outboxing him and showing the world what I'm capable of and coming alive in the moment and knocking out one of the best to ever do it.
Borderline hallucinatory training methods you could imagine. Forget pounding protein shakes or meditating with crystals. Tyson is using psychedelics to fuel his sessions. Yep, you heard that right. The champ is openly talking about using psilocybin mushrooms and cannabis to get into the zone. Tyson says the mushrooms make him feel, in his own words, beautiful while he trains.
That's it. Keep it on. One shot. Oh yeah. Beautiful. Beautiful.
Well, look where your left hook is when you finish, Mike.
Giving him an otherworldly mental and physical boost. Just take a second to picture this Iron Mike, already one of the most terrifying forces in boxing, now supercharged with a psychedelic kick to the brain. It's a whole new level of intensity, and it's hard to even wrap your head around what that might look like in the ring. And this isn't just some quirky, offbeat detail. Tyson's use of psychedelics is rooted in a much deeper story. He's fought lifelong battles with addiction, and he's openly called himself a junkie, someone who's always chasing an edge, a high, something to cling to. But here's the thing, instead of
58-year-old men are 58-year-old men no matter what they look like.
Right.
And Jake Paul is a 28-year-old athlete in the prime of his life.
Yeah.
You know, it was a real...
I mean, if you just do it to yourself, right? Take you know, me at 60 versus me at 28.
letting those demons tear him apart, he's turned that need into something almost spiritual. It's raw. It's unnerving. The idea that Tyson is using these substances not to escape reality, but to sharpen his focus and push his body beyond its natural limits. It's hard to wrap your mind around. Is it genius? Is it insanity? Or is it a terrifying mix of both? So here we are, left to wonder, do these psychedelic-infused training sessions actually give Tyson a legitimate advantage? Or are they setting him up for disaster? It's a risky game, no doubt one that could easily come crashing down under the bright lights of a real fight. But Tyson? He's all in. He's not showing up just...
It's different when you're at the highest level. And Roy Jones can contest to that. Clarissa and so many other fighters. You know, once you get in there with a real fighter that can really fight.
To wave to the crowd, he's bringing an entirely new, unpredictable version of himself to the ring. And honestly, that could be the wild card that turns this fight into something unforgettable, a jaw-dropping spectacle that no one will see coming. Numbers don't lie, and when it comes to the circus that is Mike Tyson vs. Jake Paul, the stats speak louder than any trash talk ever could. Jake Paul, the YouTuber turned boxer, who loves to remind everyone how hard he hits, averages 34.7 punches per round. Sounds impressive, right? But when you stack that up against Tyson's latest performance, just 24.1 punches per round in his lackluster exhibition against Roy Jones Jr. in 2020, well,
this is the strongest I've ever seen you.
Yeah?
Yeah, the strongest I've ever, and I know you since you're 13. I think this impressed the shit out of me. Nothing impresses me. You know, I'm gonna tell you the truth, I don't lie.
it's almost embarrassing. Let's be real here, Tyson's output has dropped from the thunderous storm it once was to something more like a mild breeze. And don't even get me started on his conditioning, which left more questions than a high school algebra test. Tyson didn't land a single jab in either the second or eighth rounds of his fight against Roy Jones Jr., not one. Zilch. Zero. For a fighter who once built his devastating bombs around perfectly timed jabs, that's not just a weakness, it's practically a flashing neon sign screaming trouble ahead. Meanwhile, Jake Paul, despite being dismissed by every boxing purist on the planet, has quietly been building some real...
He has bad knees, if his back's bad. I mean, I don't know what's going on with him physically. It's hard to tell from a guy just hitting pads. When he's hitting those pads, bum, 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 he looks great.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, if he can do that, if he can actually do that for 8 rounds or 10 rounds, however long this fight is.
Well, that's going to be the key, isn't it?
Can he do that? I don't know if he can do that. I mean, he had to pull out of the first fight because he had an ulcer.
Right.
So it's, you know.
The thing is, I was quite enjoying the second phase of Mike's life. You know what I mean?
Skill. He's averaging 18.3 jabs per round, using that jab to control distance and frustrate his opponents. No, he's not rewriting the history books or redefining boxing greatness, but the guy knows how to use his tools. And when you're young, athletic, and a showman, a solid jab can be a game changer. Let's not kid ourselves, Tyson's power still deserves its own chapter in the history of boxing nightmares. Even at 58, the man has knockout power that could send someone into next week. But here's the kicker: power doesn't mean a damn thing if you're gasping for air or too slow to land a punch. Tyson's sparring footage shows that, yeah, he can still throw a devastating hook, no question. But the real challenge? Maintaining that intensity for 8 full rounds. And that's the million-dollar question, especially when you consider Jake Paul's relentless pace. Throwing 34.7 punches per round might not sound earth-shattering on paper, but against a much older, slower Tyson, it could make all the difference between wearing him down and getting worn out. Enter Richard Steele, the Hall of Fame referee who's officiated more bloody wars in the ring than he probably cares to remember. Steele has been sounding the alarm, warning everyone that these 14-ounce gloves are more like fancy pillows when it comes to protecting Jake Paul from a Tyson haymaker. Sure, they'll soften the sting of a jab, but a full-force Tyson uppercut, forget about it. Steele isn't joking around when he talks about the real danger.
If people think I'm going to get knocked out by this strong, powerful guy, all the people in my comments saying, look at his power, he's going to get KO'd. People are yelling at me in the event. But what happens when I put this man to sleep? This shit is not a joke. He's saying that it's going to be my funeral. He's saying it's going to be my wake. He's going to kill Jake Paul, all of these things. And that's why I love Mike, I respect him, but we're not friends anymore. Until November 15th, I'm knocking this out, and we're gonna see who's dead. We will see who's dead.
Danger here, he's even worried about his own safety, knowing that being too close to the action in this fight could turn into a real-life game of dodgeball, except the ball is a Tyson punch, and missing it isn't an option. Let's talk about those 14-ounce gloves in the 2-minute rounds, because that setup adds a whole new layer of intrigue. 2-minute rounds might sound short, right? But for Tyson, it's a blessing. It's like giving a sprinter a shorter race, more explosive, less tiring. Tyson's team has to be counting their lucky stars, because this format lets him go all out without the risk of gassing out early. Every round will feel like a sprint, and Tyson only needs a couple of clean shots to send Jake Paul into another dimension. No wonder Richard Steele's warnings feel so urgent. The risk factor is sky high. If Tyson manages his energy right, those 2-minute bursts could be a nightmare for Paul. But let's not ignore the controversy. Are these rules rigged to give Tyson one last shot at glory? Jake Paul's stamina and work rate could dominate in a standard 3-minute round, but with less time on the clock, he's going to have to adjust fast. The gloves, the rounds, the entire setup, it's a strategic minefield. And if Tyson's power connects early, Jake Paul's endurance won't even matter. This fight is quickly shaping up to feel like a high-stakes chess game, where every piece has been carefully placed to make things as unpredictable as possible. Tyson's camp is practically buzzing with excitement over the conditions, and honestly, who can blame them? The man still has knockout power in spades, and with these rules, he might just pull off a miracle. Meanwhile, Jake Paul is sweating it out, refining his defense, ramping up his cardio, and preparing himself for whatever Tyson throws his way. This is no simple fight. It's a brutal cocktail of youth vs. experience, speed vs. power, and calculated risks on both sides. And with Richard Steele's grim warnings echoing in the background, we all know one thing for sure: this fight is shaping up to be one hell of a drama-filled, explosive spectacle.